At this time, we're back. Dr. Soap here. My longtime friend Leandro is here. Leandro, how many people do you think you've interviewed in your career?
Man. Well, I placed over 1,000 teachers at Teach for America. Probably interviewed 10 times that amount. I don't know, 10,000 people over my career.
But at that point, what are your tried and true principles about how people should try to get jobs?
I think it really depends on the industry, kind of where you're at in your career. If you're like early in your career, there may be different strategies and techniques. If you're kind of being pursued and recruited, I think there's a different play there. I think eventually you want to get to a place where people are looking for you to hire you. But when you're early on and you're depending on the economy and you're like trying to get a job, I think it depends on the stage. But I think being authentic, being forthcoming, authentic in every stage of the interview process about what you know, what you don't know, and what kind of your core skills are and where you need development, and just the whole motto of fake it till you make it does apply to a certain degree. But I also believe in being like very upfront about why you want to work somewhere and what you bring to the table and what you're hoping that they are going to bring to the table to help you develop. But then ultimately that you're clear on what you're philosophically, what do you believe in? Like, why do you want to work somewhere? Is it the mission of the organization, of the company? Is it your skill set? Is it a combination? I think just being real before you even enter the interview process about like why is it that I'm interviewing here? Why is it that I want to work here? And then how do you like demonstrate that in the interview process?
So then, all those interviews, all those years you were at TFA, how did you sort out if somebody was actually telling the truth or being authentic that they wanted to teach or they wanted to actually be in that place?
Yeah, I mean, Teach for America helps you with the interview process. So when we were interviewing core members, at least when I was on staff, we had like a decade of knowledge about how to recruit and backwards map like what an ideal core member or like a really successful core member or teacher would look like in the classroom. What kind of skills, mindset, core competencies does that person have? And then being able to identify those in the interview process. By the time they got to the final interview, we had vetted them pretty significantly through different stages of application and pre-interviews. So by the time they get to me, I'm like probing. I'm trying to figure out like, okay, you say you're highly organized, like walk me through how you organize your day, yourself. You say that you believe in social justice. Okay, walk me through examples of how you've lived that in action. You say that, so we have different, at the time, again, I don't know what the new process is, but there were just core competencies that we would look for and we would probe for. And then, yeah, I would be able to kind of dig deeper and get a sense of like who is this person really, and like can they really do this job, do they really understand the challenges to the degree that they can, because Teach for America and being a teacher in a low income community is like the toughest job ever. So no one's like gonna be prepared, but there's certain things that you need to have that are non-negotiables. And for me it was always like around fit mindsets, demonstrating that you can work with others well. Those were like really important. And when I say fit, you didn't necessarily have to be from the communities that we serve, but that you had to believe ultimately that every kid can learn, that that it's just a matter of getting the best people and resources around children to be able to help them thrive and become what we all know that they can become. And so that was like, those are the three competencies that I really looked at. Other people maybe look more closely at which is organization skills. I think those are learned traits, things that we can help develop in a teacher or someone young in their career. So I focus more on like, does this person understand the challenges and are they like gritty? Grit was huge. Like, can they persist? Can they get through really tough moments and not quit? Which I think is important in any job, especially in our classrooms, in front of our kids.
I'm glad you brought up the pivot from kind of early career job looking. So like the TFA people we're talking about, they were usually out of college, first, second job at most. But yeah, when you get to mid 20s, late 20s, you're looking for new opportunities and you do want to be found many times. You want people to seek you out. Any advice for how people notice these days? Like what would you tell people trying to make a pivot or to try to get recruiters to take a look at them or look at their stuff?
Yeah, I'm like a huge believer in relationship building and building a community, a network of folks who, you show up for when it's not a transactionary kind of thing. It's like, hey, Eric's asking me to be on this podcast, and I love Eric, and he's part of my like network of professionals, but also he's a friend of mine. So I'm going to show up for him. I'm going to do this thing, and it doesn't benefit me necessarily like clearly. It's just something that he's asking, and I want to like support him. And I think I approach just relationship building and career development in that sense too. It's like I just believe that you should show up to different networking events that, have like-minded folks, people in the industry that you're pursuing. I think if you're just sitting there waiting to be found, or if you're just like sending 1,000 resumes and applying to every Google and Apple and Spotify job without having done some work on the ground and really like meeting people and reaching out to folks, I think it's a little harder. I also have sat in the seat of someone working at Spotify where folks are reaching out to me and they have like maybe a slight connection. They did Teach for America or they went to my university and they are asking this, for some time on my calendar. And that's really hard sometimes to give out, especially when I'm raising a young family. So I try my best to be judicious, but also like fair, equitable around how I lend that time out. But I think that's a smart approach. I think it would work on some folks. I think you need to like figure out who are the people at the companies that you're interested in working that are doing jobs that you're like interested in, and maybe learn a little bit more about them, about what they do day to day. And if that's not working on a LinkedIn DM, maybe it's about showing up to an event that they posted on LinkedIn, a benefit dinner or whatever that thing is to get some face time. There's also like, depending on your affinity group, there may be a Latinx professionals happy hour or, something happening in the city like LA. There's always something happening. I would say like try to show up, try to get on. Um, if you're a little bit more advanced in your career, try to get on nonprofit boards, even if it's a small nonprofit. I sit on various boards right now. Some of them are really big, some of them are smaller, and I help co-found or like start up. But I think that's always great to not only like showcase skills outside of traditional jobs, that you're passionate about a topic or field, and that you're also learning from others who are maybe sitting on the board as well. And I've had opportunities pop up that way where people are like, "Oh my gosh, I love working with you on this board, and I have this opportunity at my company, and I think you'd be awesome." And I've gotten interviews because of that. So yeah, I think those are valuable tips.
Last thing, I'm curious on the Spotify connection. Folks didn't have a relationship with you or somebody they knew there. What is even the way in when there's such high name ID for Spotify? I imagine people apply to those jobs at really high numbers. How do you even get noticed if you don't have somebody that can be your champion on the beginning of the process?
I think depending on the company at Spotify, it's really easy to submit an internal referral. It's not a difficult process. It takes maybe 10 minutes, 5 minutes. So sometimes folks would email me and ask me like, "Hey, do you mind like submitting an internal referral?" And to me, that was like an easier and quicker transactional like request than, "Hey, can you hop on for 10, 15 minutes and talk to me about what you do?" Which is like, that's a kind of a bigger ask. So I also identify as a Latinx male. When Latinos would reach out to me, I felt more compelled to support them just because I know like we don't have access points to these places and I could be that bridge for them. Not to say that I didn't make that happen for other folks depending on their identity, but that I felt more compelled to do it. Just seeing people reaching out who I'm like, okay, like I see a clear connection, or like I needed help at one point, like I'm going to support this person. So I think reach out to folks at companies that you like, ask them to submit an internal referral. Again, there may be benefits for them too. If you're like an awesome candidate and you end up getting hired, there may be a bonus that they get based on the hiring. But yeah, I mean, I can only speak to my experience. And yeah, right now, like it's a tough market out there. It still is. It's been like that for 2 or 3 years. Companies are consolidating roles. AI is playing a huge factor in how they're thinking about hiring. And I think that I'm hoping that we'll see some light at the end of the tunnel here, but yeah, hiring has just become really difficult as companies also, especially in tech, are trying to like reimagine work AI, but then also money is not cheap anymore. It was during COVID, like they were just handing out loans and money was inexpensive. There was like a big push to spend, spend, spend and grow, grow, grow. And now I think the market's asking companies to show that they can make a profit and human capital is really expensive. So Yeah, it's difficult out there. But again, I think following some of those tips that I laid out will help you in your pursuit.
We'll put your LinkedIn info in the episode description, but is there anything you're looking for from people these days? What ways could people benefit you, either in your job or outside of your job, other than caring for all your children, all 20 of them?
You have a lot of kids. I think I'm in a chapter of my life where, I think we all have seasons of life. As a young dad, or as a dad of young children, I think I'm also still young.
You're close.
I just think that right now I have a really great role. I make a significant impact. I am successful in my current stage, and I'm not looking necessarily to like reinvent myself or kind of take on a significant new challenge. I'm pretty content where I'm at. So I don't think I'm looking for anything in that sense, but maybe from an impact lens, when I worked at places like Teach for America, I just felt like I was making a profound, significant impact every single day. Like I could quantify it, I could feel it. Sometimes in my current role, I am like, am I like changing the game for kids? Am I like really leading to like the impact that I want, that I've committed my life to, and which is like providing access to low income kids, to great teachers, to great instruction when I was a teacher, to now a great tool when I'm at Soundtrap. I think I'm doing that most days, but some ways that I think the professional community can support each other when you're in this current stage that I'm in now is just like, yeah, are there other ways that I can help, that I can support organizations with perspectives or mentoring? So I'm happy to, and I think I have the capacity to really be of service to others, and it's less so about me right now. So yeah, so please reach out to me if any of this like is compelling, and you want to have a quick chat, or if you need some support in other ways.
Love it. All right, man. Thanks for coming on. Thanks everyone for listening. You can get this episode all the places you get your podcast and catch us on Stunning 4K with our tailored shirts on YouTube.